James Ham.
Yeah,
Kings
Hammer in the
Insider.
house.
Hammer, what's happening, man?
Chaos. What's going on, friends?
Little bit. We've stuck with the line all day that the Kings drafted cap space last night. I know you dropped a later edition of the Kings Beat newsletter. So let's dive into this, Hammer. Lots of money out there for the Sacramento Kings. What's it all mean?
Yeah, it's crazy how much money they have. We've talked about this in the past. If there was a way for them to get off of Rashawn Holmes's contract, that they should try. I mean, basically, what we're looking at is, unfortunately for Rich, just a guy who wasn't in the plans. He wasn't in the rotation. He wasn't going to be around in Sacramento one way or another. It felt like you kind of hope that they might be able to trade him away for a couple of second-round picks, but at the end of the day, basically the Kings sold the 25th pick in the draft, the 24th pick in the draft for $25 million because that's how much Rashawn Holmes is owed over the next 2 years. And to me, that's crazy that you were able to actually get that contract gone away with. And again, this isn't to bash on Rashawn Holmes. Things happen in the league. You go from being a starter for a team who they're very excited about your contract and they think they got a good deal with you, to a player, who got a couple of eye lacerations, who got COVID, who had some personal issues, and then lost his starting job because you traded for an all-league center. And, unfortunately for Rich, he wasn't able to figure out how to fit. And this is about as good an outcome as you can get for the Sacramento Kings. I know a lot of fans are excited about what might have happened at 24. Even Omax, falls to them at 24. Leonard Miller fell even further. But that you're not going to be able to get like dollar for dollar. Look at what you were able to do right there. Not only were you able to shave $12 million off your cap space this year and go all the way up to almost $35 million in cap space, but on top of that, you're able to save almost $13 million next year when you've got to pay Malik Monk, when you've got to pay Domantas Sabonis. So you got to look at this thing as really one of the bigger wins for the Kings. And I was confused why Dallas did it. Dallas was able to, they went from 10 to 12 and gave up Davis Bertans and were somehow able to move down 2 spots and get rid of $35 million of cap space of their own over the next 2 years. And then they use part of that to pull off the Rich deal. And then we can get into all of the salary cap implications, what this actually means for the Kings, because it's super, super complex. And, again, I got to put on the capologist hat to walk through some of it.
So I saw some things yesterday after all this happened that showed the Kings can make 3 moves off of this, can absorb a contract and a trade, can sign Harrison and go get somebody else. Is that accurate? Do they have that much flexibility with their cap now after freeing up this cap space?
Yeah, it really does depend on how you want to attack this thing. So you have to look at your cap space. We've talked about this in the past, right? So right now the Kings have $35 million in cap space. They really, in reality, have 0 cap space. So basically the way it works is Harrison Barnes's contract, he has a cap hold at $27.5 million. That wipes out almost all of your cap space. Then if you become a team that's going to retain a guy like Harrison Barnes using the Larry Bird rights, you have your mid-level exception, which is $12.4 million. You have your biannual exception, which is around $4.5 million. So again, right there, we're at another $17 million. And then on top of that, in the Rashawn Holmes trade, they're likely to pick up what's called a traded player exception. You hear it used all the time as a TPE. And that would be for the value of Rashawn Holmes's contract, which is $12 million of his this year's contract, not for his total contract. So there's a way where the Kings could be a team that plays in that world where you have a mid-level at 12.2 or 12.4. You've got a $12 million TPE. You got a $4.5 million exception. And then you have the ability to sign any one of your free agents using Larry Bird rights. Okay. So that's one way that we could see this team go. And that's something that you might hear someone say, yeah, they could trade for a player, which is a TPE. The problem with the TPE is that you can only trade up to the dollar amount of within like $100,000. So you can go trade for a player who's basically 12 million and below, right? The mid-level you can't trade, but you can sign a player. The biannual you can't trade, but you can sign players. So these are all different mechanisms that the league has. But that's if you're acting as a team that has no cap space, right? So the Kings have that route that they can go. The other route that they can go is that they can be a full cap team, a full room team. So they can say, okay, we're going to walk away from the TPE. We're going to walk away from the mid-level, and we're going to walk away from the biannual exception. We're also going to walk away from the $27.5 million cap hold for Harrison Barnes, but also the cap hold for Terrence Davis, cap hold for Alex Len, the cap hold for Chimezie Metu, maybe even Trey Lyles, although Trey Lyles' cap hold is so small that you probably wouldn't, and just become a true cap space team. And if you do that, the team is between 33 and 35 million is where I have them. And that's a lot of money. So you can go out and do a whole lot of things with that. And part of what we talked about, what I posted last night, and I'm sure we're going to talk about today, is you can use part of that to do what's called a raise and extend for a guy like Domantas Sabonis, where you can go into his 2023-24 NBA salary of $22 million. You can throw money on top of that, and then you can use a new provision in the upcoming CBA where you can bolster his salary by 140%. So you could start a contract extension next summer with him making roughly, like, if you gave him a full $8 million, you could almost max him out. The maximum for a player who is coming off an all NBA season and is within 7 and 9 years of experience in the league is 30% of the cap. So you go to next year's cap, which is, I think, 144, 145 million. You do 30% of that, and it comes out to right around 42, 43 million bucks. So if you give Domantas Sabonis an extra 8 million this year and bump his salary up to 30, then you could extend him using the 140%. It would start at about 42 million bucks, and you could give him again a 4-year extension off of that would kick in after this next year. So he'd be under contract for 5 years, but the 4-year extension would be worth 189 million bucks. And that's a lot of money. And he's deserving, but there's also reasons why he would also think long and hard about signing this contract now versus waiting.
And what are the benefits for Sacramento if they do this?
Well, the benefits for Sacramento is that, going forward, that Domantas Sabonis is going to be with your team. He is going to be locked in at your center position alongside De'Aaron Fox for the next 5 years. And if you're Domantas Sabonis, here's the deal. People say, well, if he waits till next summer, he can actually get another year because, you can sign a 5-year extension. Well, you can sign a 5-year free agent contract off of your previous deal. So he would be able to get like an additional year, and that additional year would be at another 8% raise. So his final year of this contract that we're talking about is right around 53 million. He could get another year after that, which would be, again, 8%, another, let's say 4 million. So it'd be around 57 million, something like that. But the reason why Sabonis would consider signing now is that as of right now, he gets that 30% kicker, right? Because he's all league. Now, if anything happens this coming season, like say Bam Adebayo becomes even a better player than he has been, or let's say that, they've installed this new rule that in order to be eligible for all league, you have to play 65 games or more. Let's say Sabonis gets hurt and misses 20 games. Now he's no longer eligible for the 30%. He'd be eligible for 25% of your salary cap, but that's actually a huge difference between those two numbers. And so, yeah, it would actually make a lot of sense for him to sign a contract this summer and know where he's going to play and have his feet planted firmly with this franchise moving forward, if that's what he wants to do. And from everything I've heard on the outside, not on the inside, that is something that has been discussed.
So all these options and the scenarios for the Kings for the cap space and using exceptions and stuff like that, is that thing that's going through my head is like in a game they call a timeout with 2 minutes to go in the first half, and they're like, it's a use it or lose it situation. Like you either use it or it doesn't carry over. Is that what all these player exceptions, trade exceptions, and cap room is for the Kings this offseason? Like they need to spend it all up, or do they have those exceptions that could carry over in the next season as well?
Okay, so yeah, the biannual exception you can only use every 2 years. So the Kings did not use it last year. Sasha Vezenkov's people really pushed hard to get him to come over on the biannual exception last year, and the Kings had carved out a chunk of their mid-level, and we're trying to get him to sign on the mid-level instead. The biannual exception is only 2 years, so when you get done with your 2 years, you don't have your full Larry Bird rights. So now you become a free agent that can go sign with a lot of other people, where if you got that third year, now you have bird rights. So that's one thing. But when we look at the exceptions, right? If the Kings decide to become a true cap space team and have the $35 million, all of those exceptions go away, even the traded player exception. So the traded player exception is usually good for a year from the date that it was acquired. But if you're going to become a true cap space team and just run around with, again, $35 million, you don't get your mid-level, you don't get your traded player, you don't get your biannual. What you do get is what's called the room exception. And so after you've spent all of your money, you still have a $7.7 million exception that is for teams who started with cap room at the beginning of the year. So not only do the Kings have $33 to $35 million in cap space right now, they also have an exception for $7.7 million that allows them to go over the cap and sign additional players. And that the room exception can be broken up into multiple chunks too. So you could, again, it's 7.7. You could give a $4 million starting salary and a $3.3 million starting salary to somebody, if that makes sense. $3.7 million starting salary. So there are a lot of ways that you can manipulate the cap, but like if this scenario works out, that I'm telling you that it's possible that they could sign Sabonis to an extension, and you use up, say, let's just throw the number at $8 million. That would still mean that the Kings would have anywhere between $25 and $27 million in cap space right now. And then on top of that, they would have an additional $7.7 million that's separate. You can't add the 25 and the 7.7, but you'd also have the $7.7 million room exception. So you could literally go out and sign a $15 million a year player, a $10 million a year player. You could do all kinds of different things. It gives you leeway. You could sign one player for 25 million and then, piece together a bunch of like minimum scale contracts and then use that 7.7 million. There are different ways that you can sort of move around and build out the rest of your squad.
Yeah, they got options, man. Jeez.
Hammer, let's go with the raise and extend, and I really feel like that's a plausible moment that we need to find a new name for. I had been saying renegotiate.
Yeah. You can call it whatever you'd like. I agree. It is, a little out there.
Plausible. It's a plausible moment.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But let's go with that. Obviously, you've got some intel around the league that this is, we believe this could be, something that's discussed. But let's go with the idea. It is okay. We got this renegotiation. We got this extend. Domas here. Then what? Like who is your, like, if like what in your head? This has been the conversation all day. What, if anyone, who, if anyone, makes the Sacramento Kings a championship contender next year? Who makes them a threat to the Denver Nuggets in the Western Conference? Do you have an answer to that?
No, I don't think anyone really does have an answer to that, because like what we've talked about in the past is, like the staying at the same level that they are, right? And then trying to improve. That is like, you got to figure out a way to at least stay where you are, at least be as good as you are right now. And so the easy route might be to bring back Harrison Barnes, and hopefully you don't have to pay, say, $20 million for Harrison Barnes. Maybe you can pay 15 million for Harrison Barnes. Maybe that's a number that you could work out, and like maybe he wants more, as people want more, and they're pushing for a dollar figure that's uncomfortable for you. But that's when you start talking to other players. That's when you start looking at, okay, would I rather have, Harrison Barnes at 20 million, or, again, you have $25 million to spend if you do extend Sabonis. Maybe you are looking at like a Nas Reed and a Kelly Oubre. Can you get both of those players in that scenario? Can you get both of those players, and then can you add Sasha Vezenkov on part of that room exception? And so now we're starting to look at, 3 or 4 players for the dollar amount versus just 1 or 2 players. Can you get a Darius Baisley, or can you get a Matisse Thybulle? What player would make sense that would help you shore up your defense? Can you chase again, a Mason Plumlee? Like all of these different options that you might have, where you can start parceling out that $25 million, or you can go swing for the fences and say, look, Kyle Kuzma, I know you want 30, but we can get close to 30 over a 4-year deal. You start at 25, 5% raises. It's not going to be a true 30 million bucks, but is it possible that a player like that would contemplate coming to Sacramento and sort of filling up that power forward spot and giving you a different look than you had last year? So yeah, the maintain and improve. I think maintaining is bringing back Harrison Barnes, and then the improving, if you can add a Sasha Vezenkov. We see that they got Colby Jones, which I like as a prospect. He could be a guy who actually steps in and helps you this year a little bit. I'm not saying 25 minutes a game, but he might be able to play 12 to 14 minutes a game in year 1 and help you. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he spends a year in the G League. But also like the Sasha Vezenkov thing, and then just the natural progression that a team makes, the natural progression that Keegan Murray makes, that you might make as a team on the defensive side of the ball because you've been together for another year. Like those are ways that you can improve without doing something drastic. And there's going to be a lot of options here, but like I don't really particularly buy into the Draymond Green being a perfect fit for the Sacramento Kings. I think defensively, sure. He would improve your defense. I think that his passing skills are spectacular. But at the same time, like he doesn't shoot the 3 ball. The spacing would be horrible with the starting lineup with De'Aaron Fox and Draymond Green and Domantas Sabonis. There would be all kinds of issues there with spacing and how does it fit together. And he's not a great rebounder. There was a time where he was a good rebounder. He's not a great rebounder anymore. And how many years does he have left as a really good defender? Because I don't think he's an elite defender anymore either. Now, can he be a quarterback on the backside? Sure. But I don't see him being like the defensive stopper that he was 4 years ago, 3 years ago.
I agree. Yeah.
James hates fun. That's just James was here at 12. He just would have been like, no, the hell with your stupid conversation about Draymond Green. Absolutely not.
So
even though he's right.
He's 100% right. Do you, just your opinion, do you think the Kings are really seriously contemplating bringing in Draymond Green the way a guy like Brian Windhorst talked about earlier? And before you answer that, bringing him in on a certain contract is different than bringing him in using your $30 million a year or $20 million. That's crazy. That's some crazy talk. Do you think they're really like, hey, let's explore if we could get Draymond Green here in Sacramento?
Look, I think it's okay to explore. It's okay to think about something. It's okay to have those discussions behind closed doors. It's okay to go to Mike Brown and say, what do you think? how would you figure him out and put him into this system? And if Mike Brown gives a full green light and there's a way to do it, but like I don't think that you should be out there trying to outbid the Golden State Warriors for one of their like 30-something-year-old veterans. Like I just don't. Like, does he do some of the things that you need? Sure. But like so does Dylan Brooks. And that we're talking about a guy who actually fits your team better, that actually can shoot the three ball at a decent clip, who does bring the defensive mindset, who could fit into a position of need. And so like, look, there are a lot of different ways you can do this. But I think that if you're going to go out there and spend $25 million a year or $27 million a year, or heaven forbid, not do what we're talking about with Sabonis and just start throwing $30 million a year at Draymond Green, like you're just asking for it. Like that has the potential to be another, like, in all honesty, like 2 years from now, another Rashawn Holmes situation where you got a big gigantic contract and Holmes at least was only 12 million bucks, but you could have a much bigger contract that doesn't work, and a player that isn't 100% marketable around the league for a myriad of reasons, but realistically at that point it would be age and financial commitment, and that's tough.
Well,
We
I'm
haven't
not
really
interested.
we haven't really talked very much about Dylan Brooks. I don't know what Dylan Brooks's market is either. Like, we've tried to hammer the market for some of these guys, like a Harrison, for example, a Kelly Oubre, Kyle Kuzma. Like, I think I've come around to Kyle Kuzma might be the highest priced of those guys. Maybe Jeremy Grant winds up being the highest priced out of all of those players. I'm not sure where Dylan Brooks falls into all of this.
Well, there was some talk early on that he wanted, I think, 18 to 20 million, and that's as his team is jettisoning and saying he's not coming back. So I'm not sure. Again, I don't love Dylan Brooks as a fit, and not because of the personality issues and the stuff like that. My issue, because I think the Kings can use a guy with that kind of edge. I mean, we're talking about a 27-year-old guy who does everything you need him to do. He's a good passer. He's a decent rebounder, not really a great rebounder, but defensively he's spectacular. And there's a possibility that, again, with a passing center like Sabonis, his 3-point percentage could come up and he could actually work. It's just the poor shot selection, the mid-range jumpers, the bad decisions that the Kings have kind of avoided players like that who aren't making smart basketball plays in crucial moments. And so, it's one thing to miss a shot at the end of a game. It's another thing to take a shot with, 18 seconds on the shot clock and you're up by 4 with 30 seconds on the clock. Like, and those are things that you just can't allow. And so, like, Dylan Brooks, the idea of him as a defender, as a tough guy for this team, I think it does make sense. But the actuality of some of the things he does as a basketball player are super unappealing as well.
39% overall, 32% from three.
James, everything James is saying is right. I understand it. I'd seriously consider him in
At
bench
20?
role. No, not at 20. Just
'Cause
on a team in general. I know that's what I don't think
you can
20.
look for whatever you want.
I don't think he getting 20.
Don't mean you're gonna get it.
Yeah, I don't think he getting 20. I think he'd be affordable to have on your bench.
Yeah, I think a different variation of Dylan Brooks, like not nearly as good a defender, but it's still a quality defender, is Oubre. And Oubre really stepped up this season. He averaged 20 points a game. His 3-point percentage dipped, and he's a 33% career 3-point shooter. So not like a perfect fit. And that's why, like, people need to respect the fact that Harrison Barnes is a very good player and a very good fit for this particular team. If you could add another player to that front line that made sense, like a Kelly Oubre, who might be able to come off the bench and provide like major spark and length and athleticism, maybe that's something that again would be appealing. And it's someone, again, that De'Aaron Fox played AAU ball together. He's known Kelly Oubre for a decade or more. They're friends, and he would love to have him here in Sacramento as far as Fox.
Boy, you two love you some Kelly Oubre.
Come on, man. Kelly Oubre can go. He can
go.
go.
Hammond Caraway, the Kelly Oubre welcoming committee.
I'd love for Kelly Oubre to come to Sacramento.
Though, I want to know what Mike Brown thinks, though, because Mike Brown had Kelly Oubre in Golden State.
That's
and
right.
he knows, like, he would know. And not only that, but Jay Triano was with Kelly Oubre in Charlotte. So these are guys that would know how they feel he would fit in with what they're trying to build. And that's one of the funny things about, like, when you assemble a staff and you've got, guys like Jordy Fernandez who have been in certain spots, and Luke Laux who have been in certain spots. Like, they all have a different idea and a different relationship with some of these players that we're going to be talking about that could become available for the Kings. And, like, the other thing you can do, which, we keep talking about, is you can use that cap space that you just had. You just developed this, 33, 35 million bucks in cap space. You can go out there and use that just as, like, open cap space to go trade. You can give up stuff and not have to give up a player. So if a team was looking at the deal you're offering before, and it was with Rashawn Holmes, and they're like, look, we'd consider that deal, but we don't want to pay year 2 of Rashawn Holmes. Now you don't have to pay year 2 of Rashawn Holmes. Now you might be able to give up a couple of first round picks for a player who's making 18, 19 million bucks a year. Maybe you only give up a player. Maybe you can, again, like, I always throw them under the bus, and I don't mean to, but it comes down to how many people the Kings have under contract. But if you give up Davion Mitchell at $5 million bucks and 13 million of that 33 million bucks in cap space, you still got 20 million to spend, and you might have the player that you're looking for. And so there are a lot of ways that you can put this thing together and build out a team right now. And again, not having Rashawn Holmes, I wish him all the luck in Dallas. I hope he gets his career on track again. I hope he finds a home there. But the fact that you were able to sell the 24th pick, which, again, is basically a coin flip as to whether he'll ever develop into a reasonable NBA player, even just a rotational player. It's a coin flip. If you look even the last 10 drafts, and you were able to sell that thing for 25 million bucks, man, that is absolute brilliance by Monty McNair.
The funny thing, James talks about, like, ask Mike Brown what he thinks about Kelly Oubre, and Jay Triano what he thinks about Kelly Oubre. They can be completely different. Mike Brown, defensive guy, be like, I like Kelly, but it doesn't work. Jay might be like, hey, this got to be great.
Yeah.
Very true.
Now it looks.
James talked about using that cap space to acquire a player. Something crossed my mind this morning. Kings already pursued this person once.
Uh-oh.
I'll let it marinate for a minute. We'll come back, and I'll get cussed out when D'Lo and Casey return here. By the way, go to ESPN1320.com. Go to the contest page over at ESPN1320.com, and you can register to win 4 tickets to the 2-day California Classic starting July 3rd at the Golden One Center. So, again, ESPN1320.com, the contest page. Register to win those 4 tickets for the 2 days. It's 4 tickets both days of the California Classic. We'll come back. James and Kenny will yell at me here on Sacramento
Bruce,
Sports Leader.
cover your ears.
ESPN 1320. Jesse cussed me out when I told him. I was like, hey, thought of something.
I did?
Well, you weren't pleased with me this morning when I brought it up.
I don't even remember.
Oh, it's good. Keep it that way, pal.
Lazy trying to bait me here in the chatty house.
Lazy? No, not lazy.
He retired. Yo.
Did you see Lou Williams retired?
Yeah.
Officially.
Yeah.
Good career by Lou Williams, a high school guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know where you're going with this, but is it have to do with the Thomas Lancaster question here in the chatty house?
No, it doesn't. We can go back to this though, James, because I think one of the low key. I mean, I think we've thought for a while there that or not a while, a few days that OG thing may have disintegrated a little bit for probably a variety of different reasons. But with Rashawn gone,
yeah,
I mean, I guess you could use that trade exception you were talking about right there, I guess, but that doesn't feel like something Masai Ujiri would go for.
Yeah. John Poles, you asked, do I have any idea what the Kings are getting in return from Dallas? As of right now, I believe they're getting nothing. They're going to have to get something. So whether that's like a really strangely protected second round pick 5 years from now, or it's the draft rights to some guy that no one has ever heard of that plays in the North Pole.
That's
like
a good league up there.
Yeah. You know, like the Kings still have, I'm pretty sure Alex Oriaki, that's who they got in exchange for Isaiah Thomas. They got him in a trade exception years ago. I think they still have his draft rights. So you can actually trade him. The Kings actually traded somebody last year that I didn't even know they had the draft rights to, which they picked up in another deal. So you have to give something of monetary value. You have to take back something of monetary value, which is not cash. So that's what the Kings will get something. But again, it could be who's the third team in that? It's OKC. So I'm going to guess that OKC has like 7 foreign prospects that you can trade the rights to, which chances are will never come over and mean like very little. Like, yeah, they have a 40-year-old Sismon Seshuadis or
Nailed
something.
it. Nailed it.
He's out of Anwol or Locklawwick, something like that. Literally a 40-year-old man. You could trade his draft rights to the Kings as part of this deal, just to give something.
That's like the guy that like 2 years ago they he retired, or like the guy overseas that was really good, like a point guard. I think they credited him with creating the Euro step or something like that.
Oh, Dijon Brodriga.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they drafted him in like 1995. Yeah.
It was like 2 years ago, right? Where he retired, or they relinquished his rights or something like that, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, we are the only. Anyway, someone was asking about OG, and like, do we have how much time do we have?
I don't know.
Okay.
A minute.
Okay, so I'll be really quick. You cannot do the same thing that we're talking about right now with Sabonis if you traded for OG Anunoby. OG Anunoby, if he did an extension and then trade with Toronto, is only eligible for 5% raises. That's not enough. You wouldn't accept that contract. If you trade for him and you hold on to him for 6 months from the day, you can negotiate a contract that's, again, 140% of his current salary, which is like 18.4 million or 18.6 million. Whatever the number was, I did the math and it comes out to like 26 million starting salary with 8% raises. And you can give him a 4-year contract extension. So it'd be right around 4-year, like 115 or 117 million bucks. Thomas, I think you asked that in my Twitter feed, that trade.
All right, we're coming back, Hammer. We're back here. I'll remind you, as we close out this week, go to the contest page at ESPN 1320 and register to win 4 tickets to the 2-day California Classic. I don't know if Victor Wembanyama and Brandon Miller are going to be playing. I know their teams are going to be playing. I know the NBA is hyping up the Summer League schedule, and it's like, hey, yo, we got the Spurs and the Hornets at the Golden One Center a couple of days earlier, and we've got your chance. I do agree with you, though, regardless of what happens with Victor Wembanyama. I know everyone's excited for him. I think we're going to see Brandon Miller I'm excited to see Brandon Miller
I am too.
at the Golden One Center, and of course Kobe Jones and the rest of the Sacramento Kings rookies and the team that they field. Hammer, we've gone over the Kings drafting cap space last night and everything that goes along with it, and you've laid out beautifully on a variety of different levels what this team could do with that cap space, from extending Sabonis, renegotiating and extending Sabonis, the different ways that they can acquire a variety of different players. She also mentioned you can use that cap space to absorb a player with a big contract. And as I was thinking this morning about players that the Sacramento Kings could acquire,
I'm listening right now.
and I landed like, man, there's Cam again. As a restricted free agent, I don't like it. Like, I have concerns about restricted free agency in Cam Johnson. And I remembered he's on Brooklyn. And there's a pretty hefty contract in Brooklyn. I'm just asking. They attempted, allegedly, to acquire Ben Simmons once. They have the ability to do it if they want to. I'm a broadcast journalist. I just ask questions. I'm not offering opinion. I'm just stating, I'm guessing Ben Simmons is available.
He's definitely.
I'm going to guess he's available as well. And I don't think that there's a team in the league. We talk about untradeable contracts and how there really is no such thing in the NBA as an untradeable contract. I think he's about as close as you can get to untradeable at this point.
It's hard to think otherwise.
Yeah, he's almost 27. He's barely played in the last 2 years. Between the holdout and back injury, he played 0 games in 2021-22. Last year in Brooklyn, he played 42 games, averaged 6.9 points, 6.1 assists, 6.3 rebounds. He still can't score the ball. He still can't shoot the ball. There was a time where he made a lot of sense, but I think that time was in the pre-Domantas Sabonis era, and you got yourself a much better player. Like Sabonis can't defend like Simmons, but Sabonis is a tough guy who goes out on the court every single day. The problem I have with Simmons is that, like, he started having back problems, and as someone who has back problems, I understand a lot of his back problems could be caused by stress and everything else, because he's been under a tremendous amount of stress and scrutiny over the last couple of years. I thought Sacramento was a perfect landing spot for him 2 years ago. I thought that was like something that his people should have been pushing for. Go let the guy rebuild himself in a place that no one is watching. The good people of Sacramento are watching, but no one on the outside is watching what's happening in Sacramento. And they didn't do it. And they put him in another major market, and he's failed miserably and had back surgery. And again, the adage goes, I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole, or more like a 100-foot pole at this point, because he's still owed a bunch of money, and you just can't even consider it.
That contract's got to be running out. What, 2 years
2
left?
years.
There can't be more than 2 years left.
2 years left. 2 years left. I'll be honest with you.
It's 70 or 80. Yeah.
Oh, man.
I'll be honest with you, Damian.
Don't say it like that. I wasn't proposing Ben Simmons. I was just asking.
Just the thought of it. It's not the worst idea in the world at all. The only issue I have, I shouldn't say the only, the biggest issue I have, it's kind of like the Draymond Green situation. It obliterates your offense. Just obliterates your offense. The idea, the notion of taking a chance on a guy like Ben Simmons, if the Kings had a different type of offense, even to be honest with you, if De'Aaron Fox was a little different type of player where he didn't need to get into the lane as much, and he was a better 3-point shooter, if all that was the case, I'd maybe even be a little bit more into it. But like I mentioned with Draymond, and this is why I said it's not about Draymond per se, it's about the fit. You can't have 3 starters, and I don't know if Ben would start, but just for argument's sake, you can't have 3 non-shooters in your starting 5. And I say De'Aaron's a non-shooter as talking about a 3-point shooter. Yeah. He's money in the mid-range, but from deep, he's not knocked down yet. He's gotten better, but he's not knocked down yet. So you can't have 3 iffy to non-shooters in my opinion, in your starting lineup.
Yeah, our friend Brendan Nunez chiming in the chatty house. Would you rather have Draymond or Ben Simmons? I'd rather have Draymond.
I'd rather have Draymond too. My issue with Ben
I'd probably rather
Simmons,
have Draymond as well.
my issue with Ben Simmons is I don't think Ben Simmons likes basketball. And I'm not gonna like kill him for that. It's just like when it comes time to like, rehab or work, or this team is still in a stage of having to do extra things. Like, I don't know that he loves that. Draymond, I don't have any question whether Draymond Green loves basketball. I don't think either one of them are wearing Sacramento Kings uniforms. But to answer Brendan, who would you? Everyone would take Draymond, right? Like Ben Simmons is far too.
And I just looked. It's $78 million over the next 2 years. Where like Draymond, like I don't know how much he's gonna get, but
Draymond's 100 over 3.
No,
that's what he about to be. He about to be 100 over 3.
So would you rather have 100 over 3 with Draymond or 2 over 80? Essentially,
100.
100 over 3.
Yeah,
what's 20 million at that point?
Yeah, 100. It ain't my money. Uncle V can afford it.
Got it.
Hammer, let's stay in Brooklyn. I really like Cam Johnson. All of us. I don't think anyone listening to this doesn't like Cam Johnson. But I have this concern about how you navigate restricted free agents because of, the 48-hour window that they have and to match and all of those different things. How do you think this restricted free agency process normally works? Do you think, and I'm not suggesting these two are working together, just using them as an example. You think Monty McNair hits up Sean Marks and like, hey, what are you doing with Cam Johnson? Like he's someone we really want. Like what's your threshold of a number? Like how close are you to losing him? Do you think those discussions are had, or are teams really just offering $20 million and hope they don't match?
No, there's always discussions beforehand because, even like we go back to the Bogdanovich situation, right? Atlanta, before they signed him to an offer sheet, called the Kings and offered up a first round pick in exchange for the Kings allowing them to sign Bogdanovich, right? Now it was more than that. That's the problem. There was also, I think, Tony Snell and his $11 million contract, and the first round pick they were offering was a really, really crappy, highly protected Oklahoma City draft pick that was not going to be a first round pick and would have converted to 2 marginal second round picks. So we always hear the story, oh, they were offered a first round pick. They really weren't. They were offered like 2 second round picks, the equivalent of, and a player that they didn't want in Tony Snell and his $11 million contract. So they said no. They should have negotiated because Atlanta has been very clear after the fact that they would have taken the player out of the deal. And they might have even looked at a different first round pick that they might have had hiding. But either way, like you can have those conversations with the team. Once you put the pen to paper on a contract offer, though, it sets in motion one of the strangest groups of rules ever. Where again, there's 48 hours for one team to match. You can have things like the poison pill put in. You can have all of these the no trade clauses. You can have like all this junk can go into the contract to sort of mess with the other team. But at the same time, you cannot go back and negotiate once you sign that offer sheet. You can't go back to the opposing team. The offer sheet is signed. It's over. You either match the deal or you let the player go. And so it's the Kings made Atlanta wait the full like 72 hours last time. And it wasn't until maybe an hour and a half before that I got noticed that they were not going to match on Bogdanovich.
And it's changed, by the way, from 72 to 48. That's why I just mentioned the 2 different numbers.
48 minutes.
They really should. There's no reason for it to be 48 hours.
Well, that's sometimes so the contract is crazy. And that's why you need the extra time. You need to digest what it is. And you also have to look at the open market and you have to make some phone calls and see if like, okay, should I match this or could I get player X, Y, or Z for a similar contract? And can I get that done really quick while I'm looking at this contract? while I'm using the 72 hours? Can I vet the contract and go chase a different player while I'm doing it?
I'll meet you in the middle, James. 24 hours, but them days, that's a lot. And here's my thing, and I know I'm making it sound a little simplistic. They already know all this. Like, nobody's caught off guard. Like, you know who's gonna offer. You know how much it's gonna be.
Are you
2 weeks
suggesting
before
free agency doesn't start next Friday?
I'm
Is
not
that what you're
suggesting
suggesting
anything.
that?
I'm not a snitch.
Well, the Kings free agency begins next Friday. We know that because they abide by the rules. They
That's
just
right.
negotiate
That's
contracts really, really quickly.
That's all it
It's
is.
Monty. Monty and West. They're
Quick,
genius.
like, yeah, the
So-
Malik Monk contract they had negotiated within like 3 minutes of
It
the
wasn't 3 minutes, my ass. It was seconds.
yeah,
Mhm.
like clink,
You want to
Yeah.
be here? Yep.
Yep. Yep.
send.
And even in that time, based on like, I remember Malik said this. He talked to De'Aaron in that span of about 7 seconds. De'Aaron called Malik. They talked, and then they got an agreement with dollar figures. Years. They got an agreement in place. It all happened. I mean, that's incredible. De'Aaron. I mean, we thought De'Aaron was
$1 million. Yep.
We thought De'Aaron was fast on the floor.
Boom.
Boy, that man made a call. Got Malik here. It's easy work.
You're gonna be here for 2 years, $30 million. De'Aaron. Yep.
Someone tell D'Lo and KC.
220. 220.
I need another 2 seconds.
Someone tell D'Lo and KC. Someone tell D'Lo and KC and Shams. Get it out there.
Yeah.
I love this charade. It's my favorite.
It is fun. I mean, I don't know why they go through all of this. Like the gamesmanship, I get it. You should have like an open period to speak to your own free agents where other people can't. But like the agent game, like you could call an agent talking about one player. So let's just say, again, like someone has Rich Paul as an agent. You could call and check in on De'Aaron Fox and a possible extension or whatever. And while you're on the phone with that person, somehow another name could come up in conversation. And so, like, again, Rich Paul is also, he has OG Anunoby, or Rich Paul also has Trey Lyles. So when you have those conversations, the conversation could start about one player and somehow end up about, well, what do you think of my guy here? And it's like, we might not have the room to do that. And it's like, okay, well, this is what kind of room you might need if you were to look at the player like that. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's all a mess. It always is.
Well, the one that's starting to piss me off is
Oh.
the draft day. Like the trades on draft day and all that. They got to wear the hat. Like, come on. Come on, man. We all know what it is, man. That's before it was just like, well, that sucks. Now it's starting to piss me off.
Like,
and if there's one thing you don't want to do,
okay,
don't piss me off.
Really weird how much you love Jeff Jarrett, but correct me if I'm wrong, Hammer. Omax Prosper is a king.
Yeah.
Oh no, they press release last night that he has been moved in a larger trade.
But
that was
like, can he's already traded?
Yeah, I mean, when you press release something, that means it's done.
Okay. Well, then why did Monty have to read the?
Well, how is he traded and Rashawn's not?
Yeah, because the deal isn't done. I'm man, I don't know, because and that deal can be expanded and contracted. It can be turned different ways. I mean, that's what we're talking about.
They don't know what the deal is, but they know the Omax is going to Dallas. That's what they're saying. We don't know what it is, but Omax is going.
The press release is the Sacramento Kings agree in principle.
Okay.
That's what the press release says. And then there's the Jalen Swanson press release. But yeah, the Omax thing says the Sacramento Kings have agreed to trade in principle to send the draft rights to Oliver Maxine Prosper to the Dallas Mavericks as part of a larger deal that is expected to be finalized at a later date. So for all those who wanted Omax Prosper as a king, right now at this exact moment he is.
Go get your jersey.
Go get your jersey. Head over to the team store. Doko.
Omax on that Chris Paul Washington.
Man, if Washington had any balls whatsoever, they'd release a Chris Paul jersey. And just give like he gets the proceeds from it. Just drop a Chris Paul jersey. That joint would sell.
There you go.
Or if I'm a
Collect-
creative Wizards fan, I'd get one made.
collector's item.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, that trade stuff on draft day is dumb, man. I know there's pictures out there of Andrew, and this is different. There's pictures of Andrew Wiggins as a Cleveland Cavalier because they couldn't finalize the Kevin Love trade.
Yeah.
So he had to go and take all of the stupid pictures, his rookie pictures with the Cavs.
Yeah.
Because the trade couldn't be finalized till later.
Well, you know what you won't see on draft day is or draft day photos of Keegan Murray with the Kings.
Okay, why are you bringing up old
because
stuff?
they just left him. They just took the picture and they didn't even go look for the man.
He left. Okay, so again, this isn't like the Kings were in flux. They were making some substantial changes to their media relations staff and everything else last summer. And that was one of those things where someone who had not been through the process before, and I'm not blaming. This is something that just happened where like you have to bring people from station to station, and there wasn't some clarity because even that night, Sacramento media didn't get the player. We didn't get Keegan Murray on his draft night to talk to, that's only happened one other time since I've covered the team. And which is like literally the stupidest thing of all time. Just so you know, we all huddle around a speakerphone. It's like welcome to like 1987. We all huddle around one bad old speakerphone. Somebody calls and it's like, you got him there? It's like, yeah, we got him here. Okay, he's on the line. You guys go ahead and ask questions. And we're all hunched over this stupid phone, looking at each other like, who's going first? Like, I'll go. And then you ask a question and it's like, oh, I didn't hear that. What did you say? And then it's just like a mess. But the only other time it happened was Jimmer, and Jimmer was traded on draft night to the Kings as part of he was traded with John Salmons to the Kings, Beno Udrih, and what's his name? The big guy Bismack Biyombo. Went to Charlotte. So that's the only time we didn't get a player, and they were waiting and waiting and waiting. Like 3 hours went by, and Jimmer like finally had to go back to his hotel because it was like 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah, no, I'm blaming the NBA. I mean, they're lining up the top picks, and they're looking there, and they got 1, they got 2, they got 3. Jaden Ivey's here. There's no 4. Now I get to be like Damian. Hey, Terry, go find number 4.
Yeah. And if you can't find him, grab his brother, because we already used his picture on the broadcast anyways. Go grab the other one that looks just like him, and we'll throw his butt in here, and we'll snap the picture, and we'll have it. Yeah.
Is that what I look like when I do? That's funny.
Yeah. Or he'll go, hey, jackass, go find number 4.
Oh, that is funny. That is funny. Oh, Lord have mercy. What a day. Goodness gracious. Next week's going to be fun. And you want to hear the funniest part about all of this? Guess who won't be here?
James.
James.
Oh, James. That's right. James is he about to
Y'all
to make moves.
Y'all thought Fedora ham was a vibe? Wait till you get a load of
sombrero ham.
We get a load of what's that on the nose? The
sunblock?
Sunblock ham.
Sunblock. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I told
zinc oxide.
I told James. James is like, I'm gonna have my laptop, and I just want to be clear, James. You are only allowed to do a podcast. You are only allowed to do a show if Mrs. Ham says you're allowed to. Otherwise, close up the laptop. The Kings will be fine. You'll be fine. Odd time to plan a vacation, James, but everything will be fine, and we'll hold things down for you. But should Mrs. Ham say, James, get out of my face, go do your stupid radio show, I'm gonna need sunblock ham on the beach.
Yeah, we'll try to figure something out. It's a family vacation, and we're going with another family who had already set up for the dates. That's why it is this week. We couldn't really get around it. But yeah, I'm excited to actually like get away for a minute, and so we'll be gone Saturday to Saturday. But I'll be working the phones and everything else the whole time.
Wow.
Yeah, I hope you have an international data plan because I have a
I
feeling
do.
I'm gonna be texting you a lot next week.
I do. I already have like made sure that I got international data plan, and we leave at 5:15 in the morning tomorrow.
Oh, very good.
Oof.
You packed? No.
Oh no, come on now. Yeah, no.
All in all, James, Kings had a good day yesterday.
They did, and I think people are really gonna like Colby Jones. I
Mhm.
do. He reminds me a little bit of Chris Duarte, a little bit of Derek White. Like he's got a good game. He's a smart player. And I think people will like Slaw too. We'll get to see him in Summer League.
Good stuff. Yeah, and you'll be back in time for Summer League.
Yeah.
Which
It's
is
gonna be hot
awesome.
when you come back.
Oh, goodness gracious. It really is. You're leaving at 80 degrees and coming back at about 103.
Not good.
Yeah.
Boat weather.
Appreciate or multiple boats if you're James Ham. We appreciate you so much for being with us. Again, you could do this today. You could do this right now. You could do this all through the weekend. Go to ESPN1320.com and register to win 4 tickets to the 2-day California Classic that's beginning. You just mentioned Colby Jones, Jalen Swanson. Like it's going to be we are going to show the dental office how you host the California Classic. Bonte Hill said he's coming down. Bonte Hill's going to see his California Classic with people in it. It's going to be the first for those guys in San Francisco. So go to ESPN1320.com and register to win your ticket.